Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are doing great. So today we will be doing your chapter number 2 of your SST book. The name of the chapter is New Kings and Kingdoms in India. And the duration, what we are going to discuss today is from 700 to 1200 AD. Firstly, we are going to understand the political developments which happened in North India during this time period. Important political developments took place in India between this time period. It is generally known as the Rajput period. In the 8th century, three powerful kingdoms arose in North India and Deccan. The kingdoms of Gurjars, Pratiharas, Palas, and Rashtrakutas. In the 10th century, several Rajput kingdoms also emerged in northern and central India. These include Chauhans, Bundelas, Solankis, Chandelas. We are going to discuss today each and every kingdom, whatever I am telling you right now. In the 11th century, Muhammad Ghazni came, he invaded India, he attacked India, and he plundered many towns, cities, temples. And in the late 12th century, Muhammad Ghori came to India. He also invaded India and put an end to the Hindu rule in the northern India. These invasions laid the foundation of the Sultanate of Delhi and Muslim rule in India. So, like in this slide, I told you in the 8th century, three powerful kingdoms came into they were ruling in North India and Deccan. So first were the Gurjars. So we are going to discuss about them, and then Pratiharas and Palas, so on. So we are going to discuss about each and every kingdom today. First is Gurjars. Now these Gurjars were the descendants of Gurjars. They are also known as Pratiharas, who entered India after Humayun. They ruled over Malwa and the southwestern parts of Rajasthan, and later they occupied Kannauj. Now, pay your attention on Kannauj because Kannauj is very important. I'll tell you why afterwards. Nagabhat I was the first great ruler of this dynasty. He crushed the Arab Muslim of Sindh. His son Vatsraja conquered Kannauj and made it his capital. Mihir Raja Bhoja was another famous ruler of this dynasty, who adopted the title of Adivaraha after defending the Palas of Bengal. During the rule of Mahendrapala I, the Pratiharas commanded the entire northwest India. After Mahendrapala, the Pratiharas kingdom began to decline because of the weak and incompetent ruler. So this was all about Gurjars. Next came Palas. So Gurjars ruled from 730 to 1018 AD. Now, the Palas ruled from 750 to 1161 AD. Palas were the rulers of Bihar and Bengal. They were almost ruling at the same time, these three. Gopalas founded the Pala dynasty and gave a stable administration to the Bengal. His son Dharmpala expanded his kingdom across the Gangetic plains. He founded the famous monastery of Vikramshila, which later grew into a university. Devpala conquered Orissa and Assam. He was a great patron of learning. He built famous Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya. Towards the end of the 12th century, the Pala kingdom fell into the invasions of Bakhtiyar Khilji, the general of Muhammad Ghori. Next comes Rashtrakutas. They ruled from 753 to 973 AD. Rashtrakutas ruled over Deccan, top of the south and bottom of the north. That place is called Deccan. They were the feudatories under the Chalukyas of Badami. They rose to power under Dantivarma and known as Danti Durga. He established an independent kingdom and made Malkhet his capital. And this Malkhet is located near Solapur. And Solapur is in Maharashtra. Now, he was a great conqueror. He defeated the rulers of Kanchi, Kalinga, Koshala, Malwa, etc. And the Chalukya ruler Kirtivirman II also. He assumed the title Maharaja Dhiraj, Parameshwara, and Param Bhataraka. His successor, Krishna I, extended his kingdom up to Karnataka. Dhruva extended the empire to the Kaveri River in the south. The Rashtrakuta Empire stretched from Kannauj to Kanyakumari and from Badosh to Varanasi during the reign of Govinda III. Amok Barsha I ruled for 60 years. Krishna III, the last brilliant Rashtrakuta ruler, defended the Cholas and conquered Kachi and Tanjore and the Paramars of Ujjaini. During their rule for nearly 200 years, Rashtrakutas gave political unity and stability to the Deccan, which is very important. See, now these three, why I was telling you this Kannauj is very important, because these three, Gurjars, Rashtrakutas, and Palas. See, I told you their location where they were ruling. So this whole place is of Gurjars, this is of Palas, and this is Rashtrakutas. So they all wanted to come here in Kannauj because the land was very fertile. This was the prosperity, this was the sovereignty. So if somebody will come over here, he'll get more benefits. If you have good water, good fertile land, your agriculture will be good. Your agriculture will be good, your nature will flourish, your nation will flourish. That is why they were fighting for Kannauj afterwards. So this slide I have put just to show you their location. We'll talk about that triangle also. See, tripartite struggle. This is the triangular because these three were actually focusing on Kannauj. That is why we call it tripartite struggle. The Gurjas, Pratiharas, Palas, Rashtrakutas, they all were engaged in constant struggle. Why? Because they wanted to hold, they wanted to make Kannauj their capital. It was then the symbol of sovereignty. The constant struggle among the rulers of these three kingdoms is known as tripartite struggle. This struggle weakened all three dynasties and it led to their downfall. Have a look. Here we have Kannauj. So they wanted, Palas are here. They wanted to extend their kingdom till here. They wanted to come over here and they were already here. So that is why this struggle was there. Now, after this comes Rajput. Around the end of the 10th century AD, the kingdoms of the Pratiharas, Palas, Rashtrakutas declined simultaneously because they were fighting. New dynasties arose in these territories. Most of these new dynasties were Rajputs, who are known for their bravery, chivalry, honor, and prestige in Indian history. The Rajputs played an important role in the history of India during the medieval period. They were either Suryavanshis or Chandravanshis. The Gahadwalas of Kannauj, Parmars of Malwa, Chandelas, Chauhans, Solankis, they all were some of the famous Rajput dynasties during the medieval period. The Rajput kings frequently fought among themselves. Their disunity attracted the Turkish invasions. Now we'll talk about Chauhans. They were in Ajmer and Delhi and they ruled from 975 to 1192 AD. The earlier Chauhans were feudatories of the Pratiharas. Arno Raja defeated Sultan Mahmud near Ajmer and conquered Bundelkhand, Delhi and parts of Punjab. Then Vigra Raja IV annexed, he came into Gujarat and captured Delhi and Hansi. Prithvi Raja II was a brave warrior who captured Bhiwani, Rewari and parts of Alwar and defeated Chandela ruler also. He was defeated by Muhammad Ghori in the second battle of Delhi. Then came Paramaras. They were the rulers of Malwa and they were the feudatories of Rashtrakutas. So Munjab was a brave warrior who defeated the Hunas and the Kalchuris and later extended Mount Abu and Gujarat. Raja Bhoja, the nephew of Munja, is considered the most famous Paramar ruler. He made Thara his capital. Next comes Chandelas. They were from 900 to 1202 AD. Chandelas were feudatories of Pratiharas. They declared themselves independent in 900 AD. Yashovarman was the great warrior. He captured Kalinjar, Chedi, Malwa, and also he defeated many rulers. His son, Dangdev, another brave warrior, defeated the Pratihara ruler of Kannauj and Koshala. Kirtivarman and Madanvarman too were great warriors. Then came Solankis. Solankis rose to power under Mool Raja I, who established himself in Gujarat and made Anilavara his capital. Siddha Raja was the most powerful ruler of the Solanki dynasty. He defeated the Chauhans, Paramars, and Chandelas. The invasion of Alauddin Khilji in 1297 AD dealt a final blow to this dynasty, and Solanki's kingdom was annexed to the Sultanate of Delhi. Rajput rulers were great patron of learning and literature. Bhoja patronized many scholars. Art and architecture also flourished under the Rajput rulers. They built a large number of palaces, forts, temples, etc. Temples and palaces were decorated with murals. Miniature paintings also began during this time. Rajasthan and Pahari style of paintings were also developed. Now, what happened when Muhammad Ghazni came, when he invaded India? So he was the first Turkish invader. He was the ruler of Ghazni, a small empire kingdom in Afghanistan, and he dreamt of establishing his vast empire in Central Asia, for which he needed huge resources to build a strong army. So he already heard of the fabulous riches of the temples and palaces in India. So he raided India in these 17 times. Actually, he raided total 17 times, and he plundered many cities and temples. Some of his famous campaigns were against Nagakot, Thaneshwar, Mathura, Kannauj, Kalinjar, and Somnath. The invasion of Somnath was the most disastrous one. Muhammad's invasion shook the whole northern and the western India. The country became exposed to future Turkish invasion. The Turks introduced Islam in India. Al-Biruni, who visited India during this expedition, wrote vivid accounts of India in his book, and we also get vivid accounts of India by Firdausi, who wrote Kitabul Hind and Zana. After Ghazni came Gauri. He also invaded India. So he was the ruler of Ghor, a small kingdom in Afghanistan. He was an ambitious person. He dreamt of a large empire, just like Ghazni. So he invaded India not merely to plunder it, but to rule. In 1120, he captured Peshawar, Lahore, and Sialkot. He also annexed Punjab and Sindh. Earlier, in 1178 AD, he was defeated by Bhimdeva Solanki, the ruler of Gujarat. But he again came, conquered Gangetic Plains. He confronted Prithviraj II, the ruler of Delhi and Ajmer. Gauri was defeated in the first battle, but in the second battle, he defeated Prithviraj. In 1194 AD, he defeated Jaichand, the ruler of Kannauj, who helped him against Prithviraj, and he got Kannauj. But he backstabbed him. Then he appointed Kutubuddin Aibak as the governor of the of all the conquered places, and he went back to his place. What were the political developments in South India? The region lying in south of Vindhyas mountain, known as Dakshinapath in ancient times. It is a vast plateau interspread with forested hills, rivers, and valleys. The rugged topography and dense forest caused the development of the culture entirely different from that of North India. There is hardly any mixture of culture in southern India. During the medieval period, there was an unprecedented struggle for power among regional kingdoms of the south. Now comes Deccan Kingdom. The Deccan Kingdom includes Rajputas, Western Chalukyas, Yadavas, Kakatiyas, and Hoysalas. Most of these dynasties were feudatories, which later became independent. Most of these kingdoms fought with each other. They made rich contribution to the cultural development of their territories. The Chalukyas of Kalyani are also known as the Western Chalukyas. Their empire stretched from the Krishna River in the north to Vengi in south. The Yadavas ruled over Devagiri. The Hosyaras were feudatories of the Cholas and the Western Chalukyas. They ruled over Mysore and parts of Tamil Nadu. The Kakatiyas were feudatories of Western Chalukyas. They ruled over Warangal. Kingdoms of South India. Pallava, Pandya, Chola, they all were very famous. The Pallavas ruled over the plains of Tamil Nadu. Their capital was at Kanchi. They were feudatories of the Satyavahans of Andhra, who later became independent. They were great patrons of art and architecture. They built the Rath temples. Pandyas ruled over Madurai, and Cholas re-emerged as the great power in the 8th century due to Pallava-Pandya rivalry. See, this map shows their kingdom where they all were located. We'll study more about Cholas. Cholas were the greatest power in South India. Vijayala founded the imperial Chola dynasty, whose capital was at Tanjore. They were efficient administrators too. Taxes on land and trade were the main sources of revenue. They made remarkable contribution to art, architecture, and sculpture. The Nataraj statue in bronze is a masterpiece of their sculpture. They ruled for more than 5 centuries. Please go through this chapter, read each and everything. You will be able to understand each and everything. Thank you so much. I hope you all have understood and enjoyed this session. See you in the next class. Thank you.